Welcome, weary traveler. You've left behind the noise of the world and stepped into a realm untouched by time. Here, candlelight dances upon ancient stone walls, and the air carries the soft hum of forgotten lullabies beyond these gates. The night is gentle, and every story is a silver thread, weaving warmth around your heart. So, rest your mind. Let each word be a quiet step into the halls of dreams, until sleep, tender and deep, finds you. You are safe here, and slowly, the world drifts away. Chapter 1. The Whisper Beneath the Moon, ***. The night drifted in slowly, like a silken curtain falling over the world. Beyond the rolling fields and the hush of the ancient woods, a castle stood tall and still against the twilight sky. Its towers reached toward the heavens, pale under the soft glow of the rising moon. The stones seemed to hum faintly, as though they remembered songs no one had sung for centuries. The villagers below often spoke of the castle in hushed voices. They called it Idwin Keep, though few remembered why. To most, it was merely a silhouette. At the edge of their dreams, something both haunting and strangely comforting. On this night, the eve of All Hallows, the air carried the faintest chill. Leaves turned in the breeze like pages of an old book, whispering secrets between their veins. A lantern flickered along the dirt path that wound from the village up toward the hill, its light warm and fragile in the deepening dark. An old traveler made his slow way upward. His cloak brushed the grass. His boots left barely a sound. There was no fear in his heart, only a curious calm, as though something in the stillness had called to him. From the distant chapel bell, a low tone rang out, one, then another, slow and deep, marking the coming of midnight. The traveler paused to listen. Even the crickets seemed too quiet at that sound. As he neared the castle gates, he saw the ivy that had grown thick along the stones. Moonlight caught the silver thread of a spider's web between the bars, glimmering faintly. Beyond the gate, the courtyard was overgrown yet peaceful, grass soft underfoot, and a fountain whose water trickled still, though no one had tended it for years. The traveler set his lantern upon the stone wall and gazed upward. Through the highest window, a light flickered. Not bright, just the faintest pulse, like the heartbeat of the night itself. He whispered to himself, "Still awake, are you?" The wind stirred as though in answer. A curtain shifted in that far window, revealing nothing, then closing again. The traveler smiled faintly, as one might smile at an old friend glimpsed through fog. He found a place beside the fountain, laid down his pack, and listened. The castle's sounds were gentle to sigh of the wind through its corridors, the creak of wooden beams, the slow dripping of water in the courtyard basin. It was as if the castle itself breathed in sleep, and beneath that rhythm, faint but sure, came a murmur, a voice that wasn't quite a voice. It carried no words, only a feeling, a longing that was not sorrow, but remembrance. The traveler closed his eyes. He felt the peace of the place seep into him. The faint scent of moss and rain lingered in the air. The stars above blinked with soft patience. Some said Idwin Keep was cursed. But tonight, beneath the tender gaze of the moon, it did not seem cursed at all. It seemed waiting for someone who would listen, someone who would understand. And so, as the clock struck 12, The traveler whispered a greeting to the unseen presence of the castle. "Good evening, old one." In answer, a door somewhere deep within creaked softly, open slow, gentle, welcoming. The traveler rose, lifted his lantern once more, and stepped inside. The light faded into the night, and the castle sighed again, content almost as though it had been waiting a very long time for this moment. The night deepens. The air grows calm. The story, like the traveler's footsteps, moves gently onward, but only if you wish to continue. Let us continue softly as the story drifts deeper into the night. Chapter 2: The Hall of Forgotten Echoes. Side, the castle. The air was cool and still heavy, with the quiet scent of age. The traveler's lanterns sent ripples of golden light across the walls, where faded tapestries hung like dreams half-remembered. Each thread shimmered faintly, catching hints of stories long past nights beneath banners. Queens in flowing robes, and harvest feasts under starry skies as he walked. His footsteps made almost no sound, as though the floor itself wished not to disturb the calm. The great hall opened before him, vast and empty, yet somehow comforting. The ceiling arched high above, carved with stars that seemed to glow faintly, reflecting the moonlight slipping through broken stained glass. He paused at the center of the room. A long table stretched before him, draped in dust and silvered cobwebs. Candlesticks stood upon it tall, elegant and untouched for centuries. Yet when the traveler's lantern light brushed their bases, a strange shimmer appeared, and one by one the candles flickered to life. The traveler blinked, but did not startle. The flames did not burn bright, they danced softly, gently, with the slow rhythm of a lullaby. The air warmed just slightly, and in that glow, the room no longer felt empty. There were shapes at the table, quiet, peaceful shapes. Not ghosts in the fearful sense, but gentle remnants of memory. A lady in white, her eyes closed as if in prayer. An old minstrel, his hands folded over an invisible lute. A scribe, his quill poised above an empty page, as though still waiting to write. They did not move. They simply were. The traveler bowed his head slightly. He did not speak. 4 words seemed too sharp for such a soft moment. Instead, he let the silence speak for both the living and the remembered. The wind sighed faintly through the window. The candles swayed in their holders, and somewhere far above, a bell chimed a single, hollow note that lingered and faded into stillness. The traveler felt no fear. He only felt the deep, soothing sadness of time, how everything changes, how everything rests. He thought of how many nights the castle must have watched the moon rise and fall, how many winters had touched its stones. It was not cursed. He thought it was simply lonely. He moved to the far wall where a great tapestry hung. Its colors had dimmed, yet the image remained. A castle beneath a full moon, with stars twined in its towers and a single rose blooming at its gate. Below it, embroidered in golden thread, were words so faint they could barely be seen. When the moon remembers, the heart shall wake. The traveler traced the letters lightly. A warmth passed through his fingers, soft, steady. Like the memory of sunlight, he looked up toward the balcony that circled the hall. There, above the flickering light, a figure stood, a faint, silvery outline, her hair flowing like mist, her gaze gentle and knowing. The traveler inclined his head again. "Do I intrude?" he asked softly. The figure did not answer, but her expression was calm, serene. She lifted one hand, pointing toward a spiral staircase at the edge of the hall, an invitation. Not a command, the traveler's heart, steady as the ticking of a distant clock, accepted the silence for what it was, a welcome. He lifted his lantern and began to climb. Each step creaked beneath him, slow and measured, the rhythm of a lullaby. The candles below dimmed behind him, their light glowing like tiny suns in a sea of stillness. And when he reached the landing, he felt a change in the air, cooler, gentler, touched by moonlight. A corridor stretched before him, lined with portraits that watched not with eyes, but with memory. He smiled faintly. The castle was waking not in noise or chaos, but in peace. He whispered, almost to himself, "Let's see what you wish to remember, old friend." And so, lantern in hand, he walked onward deeper into the soft heart of the castle, where the past waited patiently to be heard once more. The castle hums softly now, like a lullaby beneath the stars. Very gently then, we drift onward, deeper into the moonlit stillness. Chapter 3. The Chamber of Moonlight Dreams. The staircase opened into a long, circular corridor, where the moon poured in through arched windows of frosted glass. The light fell like silk across the stone floor, painting soft ribbons that shimmered as the traveler moved. Dust motes floated through the air, slow, graceful, suspended as if time itself had paused to dream. He felt a sense of quiet reverence here. Each doorway he passed was carved with carved oak doors engraved with vines, constellations, and blooming roses. The castle's spirit seemed gentler now, no longer whispering through the wind, but breathing calmly, like a soul that had found company after a long solitude. The traveler stopped before one of the doors, its wood silvered by age, its handle shaped like a crescent moon. Something called to him from beyond it, faint yet peaceful. He turned the handle, the hinges sighed softly, and the chamber beyond revealed itself in delicate twilight. Inside was a vast room, its ceiling lost to shadows, its walls draped with thin veils of silk that swayed faintly with each breath of air. At the center stood a bed of carved oak, untouched but pristine, with sheets the color of dawn mist and a single candle still burning beside it. The traveler approached. On the pillow rested a rose-dried butthole, its petals pale and fragrant with memory. The candle's flame did not flicker. It burned with a steady calm, as if sheltered from every wind. He knelt beside it, setting his lantern down. The air around him carried a faint sound like the soft hum of a lullaby, sung by someone far away. And then, for just a moment, he saw her. A young woman lay upon the bed, her hair dark as midnight and her face serene as sleep. Her chest rose and fell with such still rhythm that he wondered if it was his imagination or if she truly rested there. Dreaming through the ages, he whispered, barely audible, "So you are the heart of Idwin Keep." The candle's flame shimmered faintly, as though in reply. The traveler felt no fear, only wonder, a deep, tender ache, like hearing a song he had known long ago. He reached out but did not touch her. Instead, he let his presence speak quietly into the silence. In that moment, the room seemed to breathe with him. The veils stirred softly. The moonlight shifted, touching the rose. And for an instant it gleamed with new color, as though waking from a dream. He felt warmth in the air, like a sigh of gratitude. Perhaps she was not sleeping because of sorrow. Perhaps she slept to guard the peace of the castle itself, to keep it safe from the passage of restless time. The traveler bowed his head once more. He whispered, "Rest as long as you need. The night is kind, and I will not disturb it." As he rose to leave, a soft melody drifted through the chamber, no louder than breath, no clearer than the memory of a song once sung by firelight. It filled the air with peace so deep that the traveler's eyes grew heavy and his mind slipped into stillness. He lingered at the doorway, lantern in hand, looking back one last time. The candle still burned, steady and sure, and in that light the woman's expression seemed to smile faintly, content and untroubled. The traveler stepped out into the corridor once more. The door closed behind him with the softest click, gentle, final, loving. He did not know if she was truly there, or only a memory shaped by the castle's longing. But he carried her calmness with him, like the warmth of a hearth deep within the soul. As he walked onward, the moonlight deepened, spreading across the stones like water. The air smelled faintly of roses and autumn rain, and in the far distance, he heard the sound of a lullaby carried through the hallways, slow, serene, timeless. It was as though the castle itself had begun to dream again. The traveler moves deeper into the mystery, but the peace of the place grows stronger still. Very softly, we continue, as the castle's dreams unfold like drifting candlelight. Chapter 4. The library beneath the stars. The traveler's lantern glowed gently as he followed the curving corridor, its light spilling over walls etched with ancient poems. Every word shimmered faintly, as though written not in ink, but in memory itself. At the end of the hall, he found a great wooden door, iron-banded and carved with constellations that seemed almost to move when the light touched them. Above the door, an inscription read, "Knowledge sleeps, yet never dies." He pressed lightly against the door, and it opened inward with a sigh, revealing a vast and tranquil library bathed in moonlight. Shelves rose to the vaulted ceiling, filled with books whose spines glowed faintly like fireflies. Dust floated in calm ribbons through the air, and a single window, tall and arched, framed the night sky in silver and blue. The moon gazed in from above the horizon, quiet, protective, full of peace. The traveler stepped inside. He felt instantly at ease, as if he had entered the still heart of thought itself. The silence here was not empty, it was alive, the way silence before dawn feels, filled with promise and gentle warmth. He ran a hand along one of the shelves. The wood was smooth with time, the scent of old parchment and lavender still lingering faintly. One book seemed to draw his attention more than the others. Its cover was bound in dark leather, embossed with the same rose that had lain upon the sleeping woman's pillow. He lifted it carefully and set it on the nearby desk, where a single candle had already been lit, its flame slow and steady. The pages opened of their own accord, whispering faintly. Within were words written in a careful, flowing hand. To those who wander gently through these halls, know this Sidewind Keep does not curse, it remembers. It waits not for the fearful, but for the kind of heart that listens. Every sigh of wind, every flicker of light, every dream held within its walls is a memory of love, not loss. The traveler smiled softly. He could almost feel the author's calm spirit still lingering here. Guiding his eyes along the page, he turned another leaf, and the ink shimmered faintly as he read on. Once, on an autumn night like this, a queen fell into deep sleep not of sorrow, but of peace. She wished to guard her people from the restless whispers of time, and so she became the heart of this place. Her dream holds the silence that keeps the night gentle. Those who enter in kindness will find rest beside her. The candle flickered once, then steadied again. The traveler's eyes softened with understanding. He whispered to the still air, so she sleeps to keep the peace alive. The air warmed, almost like a sigh of agreement. He closed the book gently and returned it to its place. Then, moving slowly through the aisles, he glanced at the titles etched along the spine songs of the harvest moon. The language of rivers, dreams beneath candlelight. Each one seemed to hum faintly, as if dreaming its own quiet dream. At the far end of the library stood a tall mirror framed in silver. It reflected not his face, but the night sky, less stars, drifting clouds, and the same full moon that hung outside. When he stepped closer, the reflection shimmered, and for a heartbeat he saw the castle as it once had been alive with light and music. He saw courtiers in velvet robes, a queen in a gown of silver and white, musicians playing slow, tender tunes while candles glowed in every corner. Laughter, soft and distant, echoed through the memory. Then the vision faded, leaving only his reflection once more still, solitary and calm. The traveler smiled faintly. The castle was not haunted by sorrow. It was haunted by beauty too perfect to let go. He turned toward the door, but before he could leave, a single page fluttered from one of the shelves and landed at his feet. He stooped to pick it up. The words written upon it were brief, almost like a lullaby. When the final bell tolls, follow the stars to the garden. There, all dreams return to rest. He folded the page gently and placed it inside his cloak. Then, with a final glance at the silver mirror, he whispered, "Thank you for the peace you keep." The candlelight dimmed, the moonlight deepened, and he stepped once more into the corridor, outside the library. The air felt softer still, touched by the quiet hum of distant bells. Somewhere in the castle above, a soft melody began to play a tune without source, sweet and slow as breath. And as he walked, the traveler felt it wrap around him like a gentle blanket, guiding him toward the next part of the castle's dream. The castle's heart beats softly now, each chapter slower, calmer, like the world drifting toward sleep. Very gently, we drift onward, the night deepening, yet growing softer still. Chapter 5. The Garden of Eternal Autumn, ***. The traveler followed the sound of the soft melody, letting it lead him down a winding staircase. The air grew cooler, carrying the faint perfume of earth and leaves. At the foot of the stairs, a tall archway opened into a moonlit garden, vast and quiet, hidden beneath the castle's heart. It was autumn here forever. The trees wore crowns of amber and gold, their leaves falling like whispered blessings. Lanterns hung from low branches, their flames glowing with a sleepy warmth, as if the night itself were holding them in its gentle hands. The traveler stepped forward, his boots sinking lightly into the moss. Each step released the faint scent of rain and wood smoke, as though the world had just been washed clean. The sound of water trickled nearby, a small fountain carved from white stone, where the moonlight rested like silver milk. Around the fountain stood statues, covered in ivy, men and women carved in moments of still joy. One holding a child, another gazing at a bird mid-flight, another cradling a lute against their chest. None of them seemed mournful. They all looked serene, as if caught in an endless dream of peace. The traveler paused beside the fountain and looked into its basin. The surface shimmered faintly, reflecting not his face, but the stars overhead, clear, unshaken, infinite. Then, slowly, ripples began to form, and an image appeared upon the water. It was the queen again, the same figure he had seen asleep upon the bed of silk. Her eyes were closed, but her lips moved softly, as though speaking in sleep. The words came faintly, carried by the water's voice. The night remembers what the day forgets. The dream guards what the waking world cannot, and peace is not silence. It is listening. The traveler knelt beside the fountain, his head bowed. "I hear you," he whispered. The water rippled once more, and the image faded back into stillness. A wind stirred through the garden, then not cold, but soothing. The leaves rustled in slow applause, their soft music mingling with the distant hum of the castle's heart. Every sound here seemed designed to cradle the spirit. The creak of old branches, the sigh of moss beneath the traveler's steps, the murmuring of unseen streams. He wandered deeper among the trees. Their trunks were ancient, smooth, and pale beneath the light. Vines climbed their sides like soft green lace, and in the spaces between them, candles floated, suspended in air, swaying gently as though breathing. At the garden's far edge stood an archway woven of roses, their petals faded to the color of moonlight. Beyond it, a soft glow pulsed faintly, a silver mist that seemed to beckon him closer as he approached. The mist parted, revealing a circular clearing. At its center lay a small pool, surrounded by marble stones inscribed with words too old to read. The pool's surface shimmered with the same calm light as the moon above. So still, it looked like a mirror of another world. The traveler sat upon one of the stones and laid his lantern beside him. For a long while, he simply listened to the faint water, the whispering leaves, the rhythm of his own heartbeat blending with the stillness. There was no rush. There never had been. The castle seemed to exhale around him, its invisible walls loosening, its sighs stretching through the night. Somewhere far off, the bell tolled once low and tender. It did not call for alarm. It called for peace. The traveler whispered softly, "This is no curse. This is a promise kept." And, as if in answer, a single rose petal fell from the archway and landed in the pool. Ripples spread outward, slow and perfect, until they touched the edges and faded again. He closed his eyes and breathed deeply. The air here was so pure, so gentle, it seemed to hush every thought into silence. He could have fallen asleep right there, beneath the glow of the lanterns and the moon's quiet watch. When he opened his eyes again, a faint light had gathered at the edge of the clearing, soft, silvery, almost human in shape. It lingered, not approaching, not retreating. And then, in a voice as faint as the rustle of leaves, it said, "The castle dreams through you now. Follow the bell, and you shall find the truth of its rest." The traveler rose, bowing his head. "I will listen," he replied. The figure dissolved like mist in the dawn, leaving only calm air and the soft sound of the water. He turned back toward the stairs, his lantern glowing warmly in his hand. Behind him, the garden shimmered in stillness, an eternal autumn caught between waking and sleep. And as he walked, the bell rang again, 2 soft notes this time, echoing gently through the castle's halls. They did not feel like summons. They felt like lullabies, leading him deeper into the story the night wished to tell. The castle hums lower now, its dream deepening, its peace thick as mist. Very softly then, let the dream drift deeper into the heart of night. Chapter 6. The Queen's Midnight Banquet. The bell's tone faded into the quiet corridors, leaving behind a trail of silver calm. The traveler followed its sound, not hurriedly, but as one might follow the path of a gentle stream. The air grew warmer again, touched with the scent of spiced wine, baked bread, and something faintly floral, like lilies after rain. The corridor widened ahead into a grand hall, and as he stepped inside, the traveler paused. It was as though time itself had exhaled and come to rest here. The banquet hall of Idwin Keep shimmered under the moonlight pouring through its tall, arched windows. The chandeliers above, draped with crystal and ivy, glowed faintly not by flame, but by memory. And upon the long dining table below, silver platters and golden goblets gleamed softly in a way that felt alive. For a moment, it seemed the hall was empty. Then, slowly, as though dawn were touching shadow, the air began to shape itself. Figures formed not of flesh, but of light. Soft, gentle outlines of people long at rest. A baker laughing quietly, a minstrel tuning his invisible lute, a child peering curiously at a candle flame. They were not ghosts of sorrow, but of remembrance, echoes of joy too tender to fade completely. The traveler stepped lightly, his lantern dim compared to the gentle glow that filled the room. He felt a calm welcome radiating from the air itself, as if he had entered not a feast, but a dream of one. And at the head of the table, the queen appeared. She rose slowly, clothed in silver that shimmered like morning frost. Her eyes, when she looked at him, were calm pools of starlight, neither alive nor dead, but beautifully awake within her endless sleep. When she smiled, it was the kind of smile that quieted the heart. "Welcome, wanderer," she said in a voice that sounded like the echo of a lullaby. "You have walked kindly through my home, The traveler bowed low. "I meant no trespass, my lady, only to listen." Her expression softened. "And you have listened well. Few who come here remember how." At her gesture, the room filled slowly with the sound of soft music harps, flutes, and voices humming low and pure. The figures at the table turned their faces toward the traveler and smiled faintly, their presence more soothing than strange. The queen extended her hand toward an empty seat. "Will you share a moment of peace with us before the night grows old?" He nodded and took his place. Before him appeared a plate of simple bread and fruit, fresh, warm, impossibly real. He tore the bread and tasted it. It was soft and faintly sweet, carrying the flavor of honey and sunlight. Though the sun had not touched these walls in centuries, the queen's gaze lingered on him gently. "Idwin Keep was built for rest," she said softly. "Not for the restless, but for those who have wandered far and need a home for the spirit. When the world above grew hurried, when fear replaced quiet, we chose to sleep." Her voice echoed faintly across the marble floor. "We are not cursed. We are keeping the calm. Each soul that comes in peace adds to the dream." The traveler listened, feeling her words ripple through him like warm wind through leaves. Around them, the figures shimmered brighter for a moment, each smile glowing softly, each presence full of serenity. He asked, quietly, "And when the world learns calm again?" The queen looked toward the high windows, where the moonlight painted patterns on the floor. "Then we shall wake not to rule, but to remind." A silence followed, deep, loving, perfect. Even the music faded into stillness. Then the queen rose. She moved toward the traveler, her steps soundless, her gown flowing like mist. She reached out, and though her hand never quite touched him, he felt a gentle warmth settle on his shoulder, like a blessing given without words. "Before you go," she said softly, "there is one place left to see, where the dream meets the dawn." The chandeliers above flickered, the light dimmed to a soft gold, and a breeze moved through the hall as if the night itself had begun to breathe. "Follow the final bell," she whispered. "It will lead you there." The traveler bowed deeply. "Thank you, my lady." The queen inclined her head once more. Her form shimmered faintly, and as the music faded, the hall slowly returned to quiet stillness. The tables, the laughter, the warmth all dimmed into silver echoes. When he turned to leave, only the faint scent of bread and roses remained as he stepped back into the corridor. The bell rang again, 3 soft, distant notes that lingered like the last breath of a dream, and he followed, not out of curiosity, but with the calm certainty of someone walking toward the heart of peace itself. The castle sleeps lighter now, its dream almost ready to reveal its final truth. Very softly then, let the story float onward, deeper into its dream. Chapter 7. The Tower of Silent Stars. The sound of the bell faded into the still air, and the traveler found himself ascending a spiral staircase that wound endlessly upward. Each step was worn smooth by time, each curve glimmering faintly with moonlight streaming through narrow windows. He did not hurry. There was no need. The higher he climbed, the gentler the air became cool, fragrant with old stone and night flowers from the garden below. At last, the stairs opened into a tall chamber at the very crown of the castle. Here, the walls were round and bare, save for thin lines of silver that formed constellations across the ceiling. In the center stood a round pool of clear water, reflecting the sky through an open roof above. It was as if the stars had fallen here to rest. The traveler set down his lantern, though he hardly needed it. The whole tower glowed faintly with the light of the heavens. The silence was not empty, but vast, filled with the quiet pulse of the universe, the soft hum that lies beneath all things. When the world is truly still, he knelt beside the water and gazed in. The reflection that looked back at him was not his own. Instead, he saw scenes drift gently across the surface. The garden in its calm autumn hush, the banquet hall shimmering in ghostly peace, and the sleeping queen in her moonlit chamber, each image passed like a page turned by an unseen hand. Then, at last, the water stilled, showing only the traveler himself, his lantern light haloed, his face softened by moonlight. He looked older somehow, though not in years, older in calmness, wiser in silence. A soft voice rose within the tower, not from any direction, but everywhere at once. It was the same voice that had spoken through the fountain, through the pages of the book, through the queen's gentle words. All who walk in kindness are part of the castle's dream. Each step you take carries the peace you have found. He bowed his head, listening. The voice continued, quieter still. Like a breath against his heart, the world beyond these walls forgets its stillness. It rushes and fears. It wakes too sharply. But those who remember this calm will carry it outward in the sound of rain, the warmth of fire, the hush of dawn. The traveler's eyes closed. He could feel the truth of it, that Idwin Keep was not a prison of enchantment, but a resting place for the spirit. A heartbeat of calm hidden within the restless world. He whispered, "Then the curse is not sleep. It is peace misunderstood." The tower answered with silence, a silence so pure it felt like a reply. He looked up. Through the open roof, the stars seemed closer than ever. They burned softly, not with fire, but with serenity. One star, brighter than the rest, drifted across the sky, and for a moment it reflected perfectly in the pool. The traveler leaned closer. When the star touched the water's image, the pool rippled gently and released a faint sound like the pluck of a single harp string. A vibration passed through the floor, the walls, the air, and the entire castle seemed to sigh, as though stretching after a long sleep. He stood, feeling that sigh flow through him. The calm deepened, filling every shadow, every space. He knew the end of the dream was near. The bell tolled once more, a single, low note that resonated like the heart of the earth. He lifted his lantern, now flickering as though alive with starlight, and turned toward the stair once more. He did not feel sadness, only gratitude, for he knew the castle would never truly fade. It would remain here, always, holding its quiet vigil until the world learned stillness again. As he began his slow descent, the tower's glow dimmed behind him. The constellations on the ceiling shimmered once, then faded as though they, too, were returning to their dreams. The night outside the windows grows deeper now, heavy with calm, wrapped in the hush of eternity. Gently then, let us drift farther into the dream, where moonlight and memory begin to melt together. Chapter 8. The echo of Don the Traveler descended the spiral staircase in silence. The lantern's glow painting small, soft circles upon the walls. Each step felt lighter than the one before, as if the castle itself were carrying him downward. Outside, the wind had quieted. Even the owls had gone still, as though the night were holding its breath. When he reached the bottom, he found himself in a narrow corridor lined with smooth stone. There were no torches here, only a faint radiance, like moonlight trapped beneath glass, spilling from tiny crystal lamps set into the walls. The air smelled faintly of roses and rain. He followed the corridor until it opened into a great hall unlike any he had yet seen. The ceiling arched so high that it vanished into shadow, and the far end of the chamber was open, not to the air, but to something vast and glowing. A silver mist hung beyond the threshold, shifting gently like the edge of a dream not yet fully formed. And within it, faint shapes moved, petals, stars, maybe even faces. Though he could not tell for certain, he paused at the threshold. It felt as though he was standing between worlds, one awake, one asleep. A soft voice rose again, not from the air this time, but from within his own thoughts. Every dawn must pass through silence before it wakes. You stand now in that silence. He stepped forward, and the mist parted. The floor beneath him changed from cold stone to soft grass, damp with dew. The scent of earth and morning filled the air, and he realized that he was standing in a courtyard open to the sky. Above, the stars were dimming, their edges softened, and a faint glow began to touch the horizon, a tender silver light that heralded the first breath of dawn. Yet the castle remained peaceful, caught in that perfect balance between night and day. Sleep and waking dot, in the center of the courtyard stood a small tree. Its branches were bare, but not lifeless. They shimmered faintly, as though woven from starlight. At its roots bloomed hundreds of tiny white flowers, glowing softly against the dark earth. The traveler approached slowly. He could feel warmth radiating from the tree knot, the heat of sun or fire, but the gentle warmth of memory. When he laid a hand upon its trunk, it pulsed faintly beneath his fingers, like the steady beat of a sleeping heart. And then, the queen's voice came again, fainter now, but filled with peace. The curse was never fear, dear traveler. It was the forgetting of stillness. The world above rushed past the moments that mattered most, and so we chose to remember them here. He closed his eyes and listened. Her words wove through him like wind through tall grass. He understood then that every candle, every echo, every flicker of music in the castle had been a memory preserved not to trap the past, but to keep peace alive within it. He whispered softly, "Then your sleep keeps the world in balance." The air shimmered gently. For an instant, he saw all the places he had walked through the great hall. The garden, the moonlit bedchamber glowing faintly, their walls breathing in rhythm with the wind. The castle itself was alive in a quiet, eternal wit's dream, holding the calm that the world had forgotten. The tree before him glowed brighter. Its branches reached upward, as though greeting the faintest light of dawn now rising beyond the horizon. One by one, the tiny flowers at its roots opened, releasing a scent so soft and pure it felt like breathing peace itself. The traveler knelt, overcome not with awe, but with restfulness. He whispered, "Your dream is beautiful. I will carry it with me." A faint wind brushed his face, warm and kind, and he knew the castle had heard him. As the first light of morning crept into the sky, the mist began to thin. The outlines of the courtyard grew pale and soft, fading like stars returning to the day. He felt the world around him shifting, returning gently to silence. The Queen's final words drifted through the air. "Do not fear the waking, traveler. The peace you found here will walk beside you. Wherever you bring stillness, the castle shall live on." And with that, the trees glow dimmed. The last bell tolled, one sweet, low, eternal, and the dream of Idwin Keep began to dissolve into dawn. The night's spell softens now, like mist giving way to morning. Softly then, we drift onward past dawn's edge, where dreams linger in the folds of morning light. Chapter 9. The dream beyond the gates. The mist receded like a sigh. The traveler stood once more at the great gates of Idwin Keep, his lantern dimmed to a soft ember. Behind him, the castle rested in stillness, its towers faint and ghostly in the pale light, like silver sketches upon the horizon. Ahead lay the open world, veiled in early fog, where the first birds sang to greet the rising sun. He hesitated. The grass beneath his boots was cool with dew, and the silence held him tenderly, as if reluctant to let him go. Then, from somewhere deep within the walls behind him, came one final echo of the Queen's voice. No longer sorrowful, only serene. All who walk in peace are never far from home. The gates swung open of their own accord, slow and soundless. He stepped forward, and the light of dawn embraced him. As he crossed the threshold, the world seemed to shift. The colors brightened, gold touched the sky, and soft pink clouds unfurled like petals. The air tasted of autumn, crisp, calm, and faintly sweet. He turned once more, hoping to see the castle in the daylight. But where it had stood, there was only a gentle hill, mist curling over its slopes. For a moment, he thought he saw the faint shimmer of a tower, the whisper of a bell, and then it was gone. Only stillness remained. He smiled. The peace of the place lingered within him, not as memory, but as rhythm. The same quiet pulse he had felt in the tower, in the pool, in the sleeping Queen's breath. It moved through him with every step he took, softening the world around him. The road ahead was familiar yet new. It wound gently through meadows washed in morning gold, past trees that swayed in a slow, sleepy dance. Even the streams seemed to murmur differently, calmer, smoother, as though touched by the castle's dream. When he reached a small village nestled between two hills, its people were just beginning to stir. Smoke rose from chimneys, and roosters called to the morning. Children yawned at doorways, their cheeks still pink from sleep. The traveler paused in the square beside a stone fountain. The water sparkled in the sunlight, and for an instant, he thought he saw something glimmer within it, a reflection not of the sky, but of the starlit tower. Far away, he smiled again and whispered, "Stillness lives here." 2. He sat upon the edge of the fountain, setting his lantern beside him. The flame within it flickered softly, though no oil burned inside. It was as if the castle's light had taken root there, small but eternal. An old woman passing by noticed him and said gently, "Traveler, You look as though you've come from a dream." He nodded. "Perhaps I have," he said, "and perhaps the dream has followed me." She laughed softly, not unkindly, and went on her way. But long after she had gone, he noticed the fountain's water rippling, and in its surface, faint stars shimmered once more. The day unfolded peacefully. He walked through the fields beyond the village, where the wind whispered through tall grass, and the world seemed to hum in quiet contentment. Everywhere he went, calm seemed to bloom. A sleeping dog stirred and sighed happily. A baby stopped crying. A pair of doves settled upon a fence post and cooed in harmony. It was as if the castle's dream had spilled into the waking world. Little by little, carried on the soft rhythm of his heart. As evening approached, he reached a gentle hill overlooking the countryside. The setting sun painted everything in warm amber light. He sat upon a smooth stone and watched the sky darken, stars returning one by one. In that moment, he understood. Idwin Keep had never vanished. It lived in every hush between the wind, every calm breath, every soul who remembered to slow down and listen. He closed his eyes, breathing deeply. The sound of the distant bells seemed to return, faint but clear, as though calling from beyond the horizon. And with it came the same peace he had found within those ancient walls. The traveler lay back upon the grass. Above him, the first star of evening glimmered softly. He whispered to it, half dreaming, "Good night, my queen. May your castle rest forever in stillness." The wind answered with a sigh, gentle as sleep itself. And as darkness deepened, he drifted once more into dreams, not of curses, but of quiet light, and of a castle that would never fade. The world lies hushed now, glowing faintly beneath the stars. Very softly then, let us step into the hush of the final dream, where the night folds around the world like velvet and everything finally rests. Chapter 10. The Eternal Calm the Traveler Dreamed. He dreamed of the castle once more, but this time it was not distant or shadowed. It stood clear beneath a sky woven with slow-moving clouds, its stones gleaming as though made of light itself. There was no chill in the air now, only a deep warmth, like the memory of a long-forgotten embrace. The great gates were open, and the courtyard shimmered with starlit mist. He stepped through without fear or question, for he knew now that this place lived within him. The towers were brighter, their windows glowing softly, and music drifted gently from within, not the ghostly echo of harps, but the sound of pure stillness given form. The queen awaited him in the garden, standing beside the silver tree whose branches now bloomed with radiant blossoms. Her gown was woven from moonlight and dawnlight both, and her eyes reflected the peace of countless ages. She smiled, and the very world seemed to exhale. "You returned," she said, her voice the sound of calm itself. "Few remember how." He bowed his head. "I never left," he whispered. "You live in every quiet moment." Her smile deepened. "Then the curse has ended, for what was bound in sleep is now free in stillness." The traveler looked around the garden. Every petal glowed. The streams that wound between the trees carried starlight instead of water, and the air was filled with the scent of rain after long peace. He felt no weight, no longing, only the profound ease that comes when the heart no longer seeks to hold or chase anything. He was, at last, fully at rest. The Queen turned her gaze toward the horizon, where a faint light began to rise. It was not the sun, nor any fire, but the soft, steady glow of understanding. The light that comes not from outside, but from within. The castle, she said, was never a prison. It was a promise that peace cannot die, only sleep, until someone remembers to dream it again. He nodded slowly. As she spoke, the towers began to fade, not vanish, but dissolve into brightness, as if returning to the sky from which they were born. The sound of the bell tolled one final time, clear and low, carrying across every hill and valley of the dream. It was not a sound of ending, but of completion, a soft closing of the book before sleep. The Queen reached out her hand. When he took it, her touch was warm, and through it flowed every calm he had ever known. The hush of forests, the drift of clouds, the stillness between heartbeats. Then she said, almost in a whisper, "Wake gently, traveler. Carry the stillness with you, wherever you go. For all the world is weary, and it waits for your quiet light." Her voice faded into the wind, and the castle shimmered into pure, radiant silence. The traveler awoke at dawn. The field around him was bathed in soft gold, dew gleaming like fallen stars. Birdsong rose from the hedges, slow, melodic, unhurried. He felt no rush to move, no need to speak, only to breathe. He stood, looking toward the horizon. Far away, he thought he saw, just for an instant, the faint outline of a tower against the morning sky. Then it was gone, replaced by drifting clouds. He smiled quietly to himself. The peace he carried would never fade. Wherever he walked, it would move with him, a calm too deep for words, a stillness that asked for nothing but to be shared. And as he began to walk down the soft path through the meadow, the breeze stirred the grass in gentle waves, and the whole world seemed to sigh, resting, at last, in quiet harmony.